Hello girls, this is Coach Randy. We're going to go over a 4-2 volleyball offense today. It is a simpler offense to learn, and so I'm just going to diagram kind of how that's going to flow during a rotation. So we're starting with the diagram here. We have our side of the court. This is the net at the top up here, and then this is the 10-foot line indicated here. So in a 4-2 offense, we effectively have 4 hitters and 2 setters. So in our typical setup, we will have setter 1 and then setter 2 opposite of each other in the rotation. That guarantees that as we rotate clockwise through during a game, we're always going to have a setter in the front row and a setter in the back row. And then everybody else will effectively be a hitter on the court. So we will have in our 6 positions 4 additional hitters. We still want to function or flow as having the setters move to the position that they are going to set from. So as you recall, when the ball comes over the net in a serve receive or just during play, our back row players are going to be our defensive players. They are going to work on passing the ball to the spot where the setter will be. What you'll notice here is that in this setup, in this rotation here, the setter is actually starting on the left-hand side. So what we have to do, and this is what you've probably seen before, is we have to rotate. So our hitter from the middle is going to move to this position, and our setter is going to move to this position from the front row. And that's what this makes us a 4-2 offense, is that we in this rotation only have 2 hitters in the front row and a setter. And as we rotate around, eventually we'll have setter 1 move to the setter into the front row as well. And then as the setter moves into the back row, they become a defensive player. And I'll talk more about defensive strategies as well, because we are going to do some adjustments to be able to do protections and stuff on defensive side. So the key here is understanding the fact that when the setter is in the front row, and whoever the setter is in our league, the setter, whoever the setters are in the game, if we have 2 designated in a particular game, they actually will not rotate out. So normally we rotate out after serving and then rotate into middle back position. In this case here, when we have setters in offense, we don't have to rotate the setters out, so they will simply serve and then move to the middle back position, and then we will skip a rotation of an individual coming in. Okay, so really we're not worried about anything in the back row. We're mainly worried about the stuff in the front row here. So as I said, when the setter is on the left-hand side, they're going to start in a position. Let's see if I can draw this. They will start in a position next to the hitter, so we are actually going to put the setters next to each other. The setter next to the hitter here, and then this is going to make for an easy rotation for the hitter to move and the setter to move to their position. Okay, so that's when the setter is on the left-hand side in the 4 spot. When the setter is moved after a rotation, the setter will move to the center spot, and we will have hitters on either side, and we will have the other setter opposite down here. So this is after 1 rotation. We move clockwise, setter now moves to the center spot. In this case, the setter doesn't have to move anywhere. Hitters stay in their spots on the right side and on the outside position. Setter basically just slides over a little bit when the ball comes over and is passed to the setter spot. They simply have to distribute it to one of their hitters on either side. Okay, so that's actually the easiest rotation. So now we're going to rotate one more time, which will put our setter 2 here and our setter 1 opposite again. Our new hitter has come into middle back, and now we have 2 hitters in the front row on the outside and on the middle, and our setter 2 in this position. So we can either leave this hitter in this position here and just have the setter come over. This would be a similar situation as in a 6-2, I'm sorry, in a 5-1 type of offense when the setter's in the front row. Or we may actually rotate the hitter over and switch spots with the setter, and then leave the center open there for being where the setter will be. So we have options there, but essentially the idea is we're getting the setter to this position here, and we are going to keep either a hitter in front of that setter or move the hitter over to the behind side, behind it to hit on the right side. Okay. So that's just kind of the rotation we're going to do. This is a 4-2 offense. It's very simple. The idea is we want all of our passing to be targeted to a point here. So this is where we expect the setter to be. Setter, when the setter receives the ball, they will pass set it or hand set it to one of our hitters here to execute. So the thing to note here is if you are a hitter in the front row, when the ball starts on the other side of the net, when not on serve receive but during gameplay, hitters are going to be at the net for blocking purposes, and as the ball comes over and is now being played on our side, they're going to drop back to this 10-foot line. That's kind of the purpose of the 10-foot line, because this gives them the space in front of the net for the setter, when the setter passes the ball to one of them, to then make an attack on the ball. So this is something we're going to work on. When you're in the front row, we're running the offense. As a hitter, you play up to the net to block, and we may not be blocking at this point, but the goal is to be in the right position, and the right position is to be in front of the net as a blocker. And as the ball comes back to our side and now we go on offense, the hitter will move back to the 10-foot line and then be ready to attack the ball. All right. So that's basically the 4-2 offense. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in practices this week, and then we're going to start working on this. We may transition eventually to one of the other offenses, a 5-1 or a 6-2, but this is the easiest one to start with. And it'll help us enforce the touching the ball 3 times on our side, passing, setting, and then hitting to get into that type of experience. So I will see you guys all at practice.